Hi friends, welcome back to Learning Space. So this is UPSC IAS Prelims 2019 revision modules, and we are in the current affairs revision module pertaining to art and culture. This is module number 21, and let us look at the very first issue with regard to this module. So we have Sanskriti Kumbh. So what about this particular event? Why is it in news? First of all, let us analyze that. This is in news because recently Ministry of Culture is organizing this particular Sanskriti Kumbh. It has organized this particular event, a 29 days cultural extravaganza at Kumbh Mela area, Prayagraj. So if you take this particular year, Kumbh Mela is going to be held in the region of Prayagraj. So you have Sanskriti Kumbh also going to be taking place in that particular place. So let us now understand about the event of Kumbh Mela so as to understand better about the event of Sanskriti Kumbh. So please understand, this event of Kumbh Mela is actually a religious festival. You all know about it. So this is a religious festival, whereas when you take Sanskriti Kumbh, this is more of a cultural festival. Why do I call it to be a cultural festival? This is called so because here the government is actually trying to portray the various cultural elements which is present in India. So Sanskriti Kumbh is actually trying to portray the various cultural elements of India in a single platform. So this is the intricate difference between the Kumbh Mela, which is a religious festival, whereas Sanskriti Kumbh, which is a conglomeration of the cultural elements of India. Now let us understand about Kumbh Mela. So Kumbh Mela is considered to be one of the largest congregation of human population in one single place at one single point of time. So this is very large festival. It is attended by millions of people irrespective of their caste, irrespective of the region, and so on. And what is important is, please remember, Kumbh Mela is also a part of, it is also inscribed in the list of UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage List for Humanity. So this is again very important. So this time Kumbh Mela is being organized in the city of Prayagraj. So what is important with regard to the Allahabad city, which is otherwise called as Prayagraj? What is important with that? So you are going to have a confluence of three important rivers: the Ganges, the Yamuna, and the mythical Saraswati river. And let us move on. The Kumbh Mela event is actually getting promoted more and more by the government of India. Why is this promotion necessary? So this event is actually getting promoted because the youth, the new generation, is actually feeling very much disconnected from the cultural elements, the cultural heritage of India. So as to reconnect the youth back with the cultural heritage of India, the government is actually trying to promote this particular event on a large scale. So how do you promote an event? As of now, in this present generation, if you have to promote a particular festival, the best thing to afford to is to go for digital promotion. In the same way, Kumbh Mela has also been promoted digitally. In order to promote this event digitally, a massive exercise has been undertaken, like advertising campaigns on social media. You have some live footages being telecasted, being relayed over your YouTube channels, and also a large number of LED screens have been set up in the Kumbh Mela premises as well. So not just your Kumbh Mela is getting attention, attention has been given to the event of Sanskriti Kumbh. So as your religious festival also get portrayed, also the cultural element, the cultural arena of the Sanskriti Kumbh also gets portrayed. What is the advantage of it? You have to understand the basic aim behind Sanskriti Kumbh is to portray, I've mentioned this point again and again, is to portray the cultural vibrancy that is present in India. So as to portray the cultural elements of India, the cultural vibrancy of India, they are organizing the Sanskriti Kumbh, because of which what will happen? The unity in diversity element of India will be much more strengthened. This will give a further impetus to the concept of unity in diversity. The young generation will get to embrace their cultural elements in a much more enhanced manner. So this is the advantage of actually connecting the youth with the cultural elements of India. Let us move forward. Places where this particular Kumbh Mela is actually being held. The Kumbh Mela is actually held 4 times over a time span of 12 years in rotation between 4 places. What are those 4 places? You have it in Haridwar, Prayagraj, Ujjain and Nashik. So all these 4 places, if you take it, it is actually present on the banks of a certain river. So that also is very, very important. You need to understand Haridwar on the Ganges, Ujjain on the Shipra, Nashik on the Godavari river, and Prayagraj, as I mentioned to you, confluence of 3 rivers, the Ganges, the Yamuna and the mythical Saraswati. Now history behind Kumbh Mela, that is again important. This Kumbh Mela festival, it is getting a mention in certain historical records. So you need to remember those records. For example, this is actually mentioned in the writings of the 7th century Chinese traveler Yuan-sang when he visited during the rule of Harshavardhana. And then the festival was also popularized by the 8th century Saint Shankaracharya. So we have learnt very much about the saint of Shankaracharya. So please remember that. And now the recent changes in naming. That is again important. What happened was there is a change with regard to the name. The Uttar Pradesh government from this year onwards has announced that the Artha Kumbh will be known as Kumbh and the Kumbh will be known as Mahakumbh. So there is a change of name. Please understand that. It will be now onwards known as Kumbh and Mahakumbh respectively. So UNESCO's cultural heritage list, I've mentioned about that. The significance of the Kumbh Mela has been that it has been also inscribed in the global level. It has got a recognition as it got inscribed in the UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage List. So this is a list which is promoted so as to promote the intangible heritages of humanity. Now you may have a question. Why should you think or why should you focus on Intangible Cultural Heritage List? So please understand, not just your monuments, not just your artifacts which can be touched and felt, not just that occupies the overall sphere of the cultural heritage of one particular country. There are some elements of intangibility which is also a part of the cultural heritage of one particular nation. Take for example yoga. So yoga cannot be touched and felt, right? So this is said to be one of the intangible cultural heritage with regard to India. Take for another example Sankirtana. So we have learnt about Sankirtana even in the last module. So Sankirtana is again one form of ritual singing with regard to Vaishnavism. So what happens here? This again cannot be touched and felt. This is a part of your intangible cultural element. So these kinds of intangible cultural elements, they have to be protected as well. They do form a part and a parcel of your cultural element and your cultural history. So for that, UNESCO has got this particular Intangible Cultural Heritage List. And for that, they have actually divided into 2 lists. One is the representative list. The other is the list which needs urgent safeguarding. So this is quite important. It is composed of those cultural elements which are concerned to be, or this is considered to require some urgent measures to keep them alive. So they need, as the name suggests, they need some urgent safeguarding. So these are the 2 important elements or 2 important lists pertaining to UNESCO. Now, in our regular static modules, we have already learnt about the important UNESCO's cultural heritage elements. So we have released 2 modules on that. So please take extra attention about that particular module as well. And now let us move on to the actual module or to the actual news about what is this Sanskriti Kumbh all about. So we have understood about Kumbh Mela. Now let us take a look at the cultural aspect about that, which is Sanskriti Kumbh. This is the biggest cultural festival conducted by the Ministry of Culture, and this is going to be conducted in the main premises of the Kumbh Mela area. So in very short terms, this is going to showcase the rich cultural heritage of India. What is the cultural heritage? You have something like performing arts, your folk arts, your song traditions, your musics, your painting, the cuisine of one particular community, the traditional handicrafts which is being exhibited. So all that is a part of the cultural heritage of India. All that is going to be portrayed in one single platform. That is the main focus behind conducting Sanskriti Kumbh. In short, if you take the Kumbh Mela, that is going to be a religious festival, the Sanskriti Kumbh, that is going to be a conglomeration of cultural heritage plus spiritual consciousness. Put together, it will form the Sanskriti Kumbh. Please remember this shortcut as well. Now let us move on. Description of that particular event. Please understand, this event is going to portray, it is going to stand for the values of unity in diversity, and this is going to enhance the spirit of Ek Bharat, Shrestha Bharat. Now, the artists who represent the 7 cultural zones, the 7 zonal cultural centers, they are going to come and perform with regard to the Sanskriti Kumbh. What do you understand by the terminology of 7 zonal cultural centers? ZCCs they are called as. So what is this ZCCs all about? Please understand, the Ministry of Culture has actually divided the entire geography of India into 7 cultural zones. So you're going to have some 7 cultural zones so as to preserve and protect the cultural elements of each of the zones in a more concentrated manner. So what are these 7 zones? First of all, you have the news zones, which is the north, east, west and the south zone. Apart from that, you're going to have the north central zone, you're going to have the south central zone, and finally one zone is exquisitely present for your northeast center. So you have a northeast zonal cultural center as well. So these are the 7 cultural centers. Please remember the news zone, which is the north, east, west and south, and then you have the north central, south central and the northeast zone. So please remember these 7 zones. And what exactly happens with regard to the Sanskriti Kumbh? Certain names you have to remember, because these have been actually given in your PIB article, which means it is more important. What are those important words? For example, if a question comes with regard to Sanskriti Kumbh, you need to understand about the Kalagram, you need to write about the Shilp Hats or the Rashtriya Shilp Mela, and then finally you need to mention a word about the Maidani Kalakar. What about these 3 elements? What is this Kalagram all about? As the name suggests, this is going to be a gram. A gram in the sense it is going to be a village or a conglomeration of most of the craftsmen who come there to exhibit their particular art forms. So this is going to be organized in the form of a pavilions, which is going to be set up by the zonal cultural centers, wherein master craftsmen will display their handicrafts. And then if you move on to the next important element, you're going to have the Rashtriya Shilp Mela. And here again, some form of the handicraftsmen are going to they're going to put up their stall and they're going to display handicrafts and live demonstration of their skill. So this is it about the Shilp Hats. And now take a look at what happens with regard to Maidani Kalakar. So apart from the above, you're going to have some traditional performances of some of the fringe folk art forms like Beharupia, Kachigodi, etc. So what is this art form? Beharupia is actually one form. Please take a note of this particular figure, you will understand better. Beharupia is one particular art form where people, they actually dress up. They actually put a lot of makeup and dress up into one form of animal, into one form of divine god, so as to portray some entertainment for the general public. So they dress up and they provide entertainment. So this particular art form is known as the Beharupia art form. It is present in Rajasthan, in various parts of India all over. You have it in Bengal and so many other regions. So please understand the art form of Beharupia. And then when you take the other art form, which is Kachigodi, so here the person, they are going to get inside one particular godi, a horse, and they are going to sing and perform. So these are some of the folk art forms which are going to get enough focus with regard to the Sanskriti Kumbh. So again, these particular folk art forms, they are referred to as Maidani Kalakar. What does this term mean? Maidani Kalakar means that they are going to perform in an open area without the presence of a stage. So open area performance is referred to as Maidani Kalakar. Those are artists who actually indulge in this form of open air performance, that they are referred to as Maidani Kalakar. And now moving on to the next important issue, we have the Rashtriya Sanskriti Mahotsav. Very closely related to your Kumbh, Sanskriti Kumbh, you have very closely related another event which is referred to as the Rashtriya Sanskriti Mahotsav. So this one, why is it in news? Because this is the 9th edition of the Rashtriya Sanskriti Mahotsav. So this particular event, it is actually inaugurated in Tehri, Uttarakhand, and Rashtriya Sanskriti Mahotsav is actually strengthening the spirit of Ek Bharat Shrestha Bharat. So please remember that. Now let us first of all analyze about the Rashtriya Sanskriti Mahotsav. So again, the intent, please understand, the intent behind the Sanskriti Kumbh as well as your RSM is going to be almost the same. The intent is same. What is the intent? To showcase the rich cultural heritage of the country. By the cultural heritage, we are talking about handicraft, cuisine, painting, sculptural work, their performance-based art forms, and so on. All that is going to be portrayed in one single platform. So again, the intent with regard to both are going to be the same. It aims to provide platform to bring together artists from each corner of the country. So please understand about that. Now there is a pairing of states. Why do we need this pairing? That is because this particular RSM is going to portray the culture, going to portray the theme of Ek Bharat Shrestha Bharat. So which means there is obviously going to be some interconnection. There is going to be some cultural interaction between two states, because of which you need a pairing. So this pairing of states do happen with this 9th edition as well. So what states are getting paired? With Uttarakhand, you have the state of Karnataka. This is under the Ek Bharat Shrestha Bharat matrix, and Uttarakhand is obviously going to get paired with Karnataka. And the North Zone Cultural Center has been entrusted with the responsibility to organize the same. Now, some of the past editions of the Rashtriya Sanskriti Mahotsav we have given here. So far, 8 editions have taken place. So the 8th edition, that is actually there with regard to the state of Madhya Pradesh, and Madhya Pradesh is actually paired with the states of Nagaland and Manipur. So if you take the 7th edition, it was actually held in Karnataka, and the state that is paired with Karnataka is actually Uttarakhand. Now what is important is 8 editions I have mentioned to you. So where are these 8 editions actually held? Please have a quick look at that. You have 2 editions in Delhi, you have 2 editions in Karnataka, and you have 1 each in, that is, you're going to have 4 in total, 1 each in the state of Gujarat, you're going to have it in Madhya Pradesh, Varanasi, and finally you're going to have, as an encompassment of all the northeastern states, you're going to have one particular event, one particular edition that is going to represent the northeastern state. So Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, northeast, and then Varanasi as well, and then 2 in Delhi and 2 in Karnataka. So please remember this particular some amount of information about Rashtriya Sanskriti Mahotsav's past editions. Now let us move on. We have mentioned about Ek Bharat Shrestha Bharat, right? So we need to know a bit about that as well. So what is this theme of Ek Bharat Shrestha Bharat all about? The theme is unity in diversity. To portray India's unity in diversity, to showcase the various cultural elements in India, to protect the cultural heritage of India. So these are the important theme behind your Ek Bharat Shrestha Bharat. Understand, this was announced on 31st October 2015 on the occasion of 140th birth anniversary of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. So I have to mention something with regard to EBSD, that is, you can actually put this in a triangular format. First of all, as I have told you, this is to present the diversity, this is to present the cultural uniqueness, the diversity which is present in India, and we are going to have some amount of cultural linkages. You're going to have some amount of interactions between the states. So this is what we mean by the term of cultural linkages. And then we are going to achieve that so as to preserve the national integration of our country, so as to preserve and protect the national integration. And please remember the ideology, the philosophy behind conducting such a kind of cultural event, such a kind of cultural theme is actually to reconnect the youth with the present cultural heritage of India. So, reconnecting the present generation or reconnecting the next gen. So, that is actually the ideology, the philosophy that is going on behind the minds of the policymakers. The philosophy or the ideology behind the theme, behind one particular scheme is quite important with regard to UPSC. So, please remember that. And now, coming to Ek Bharat Shrestha Bharat, as per the program, each year every state or union territory would be paired with another state, so that there would be a reciprocal interaction between the people. So, you have some amount of cultural exchanges which is taking place, so that there will be an enhanced understanding and bonding between the different states, and thereby strengthening the unity and the integrity of India. So, by this we have comprehensively covered about Ek Bharat Shrestha Bharat itself, and I am sure you might have understood some concrete points to write about Ek Bharat Shrestha Bharat, your Rashtriya Sanskriti Mahotsav, and finally about Sanskriti Kumbh as well. Now, something that is again closely related with the theme of Ek Bharat Shrestha Bharat, you have the Parsha Sangam program. So, this is actually conducted by the Department of School Education and Literacy. So, the Department of School Education and Literacy again comes under Ministry of Human Resource and Development, and this has initiated this particular program. Understand, this is a celebration of the linguistic diversity of India. So, this marks the appreciation of the various languages which is present in our country. And in order to celebrate the unique characteristic, they are going to give to the students a multilingual exposure. What are they going to do here? For that, you need to understand about the basic objectives behind this particular program. The objectives are very simple, only two objectives. First of all, the very first objective is that to familiarize every child about all the 22 languages which is present under the 8th schedule of the Constitution. So, you have to familiarize the child. Now, the second point, take a look at that. For that, the schools, they take up one language on each working day to enhance the linguistic tolerance. That is the second ambition, enhancing the linguistic tolerance, promoting national integration. This is present so as to enhance the child's ability to accept, to protect, and to respect the language of every other community. So, this is there to promote and respect the linguistic diversity of India. So, what happens here is the school, they actually teach some 5 very simple and commonly used sentences with regard to each and every language. So, they take up just 5 language and they teach them to the children. And this is done as a part of extracurricular activity without actually loading the children as in the form of some additional syllabus. So, this initiative has been very widely successful. It is very much popular as well, and most of the states have taken that in a very positive manner. And almost they have released many videos of such experiences in YouTube. Even they have released some form of their appreciation in Twitter. So, all that has been registered in PIB press release as well. So, let us move on to the importance of the languages that is being used in schools. Certain policies have actually dealt about the languages which have to be used in schools. Now, please understand, education is in the concurrent list. States have the complete liberty to choose the medium of instructions with regard to the schools. And some important rights or some important acts you need to remember with regard to the language that can be used in a school. When you take the RTE Act under section 29 clause 2 subclause F, they say that the medium of instruction shall as far as practicable be in the child's mother tongue. The same has been again reiterated by the National Curriculum Framework 2005, where they said or they gave an emphasis upon the importance of imparting primary education in the mother tongue of the child. So, what is this National Curriculum Framework? Let us understand what this framework actually tells more with regard to the languages used in schools. The NCF also states about one very important thing, that is the 3 languages formula. So this is actually an attempt to address the challenges and opportunities of the linguistic diversity that is present in India. So you have a varied amount of languages, and to actually make the child familiar with some other language which is not present in their particular region, the NCF has come up with this 3-language formula. So as per this 3-language formula, the child will have to learn his own mother tongue, they have to learn English, and as a 3rd language they have to take to some other language which is not present in their own region. Now what happens is, in the non-Hindi speaking states, children they learn Hindi, while in the Hindi speaking state they take to some other language which is not spoken in their particular area. And again, please understand, this is a framework with regard to the 3 languages formula. Some additional information I am giving you here. Sanskrit may also be studied as a modern Indian language in addition to these languages. Next, we are moving on to the one very familiar thing to Hindi. We are learning about World Hindi Day. So what recently happened was, we had the 11th World Hindi Conference. So in that context, let us learn about the World Hindi Day as well. So World Hindi Day is actually celebrated on January 10th every year, and this is marking the anniversary of the first World Hindi Conference, which was held in 1975. So the world's first Hindi conference that was actually inaugurated by the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, and after that, since 1975, various countries have organized this particular Hindi conferences, and very importantly, you have to give some extra attention to the country of Mauritius, because many events of World Hindi conferences have taken place with regard to Mauritius, and even the 11th World Hindi Conference was also taking place in Mauritius. World Hindi Day, as I've told you, it is observed on Jan 10th, and let us take a look at about the very first World Hindi Conference. So it was inaugurated by PM Indira Gandhi, and the chief guest was actually the Mauritius PM C. Vasugar Ramgulam, and he was the chief guest. Also, persons of Indian origin, they take to this particular conducting the World Hindi conferences with great enthusiasm, so as to spread the greatness of this particular language. And 11th World Hindi Conference, that was held in Mauritius, and this was held in the year of 2018. And what about the past places? What about the past world conferences? Take a look at all those events which had taken place in Mauritius. The second world conference was in Mauritius, the 4th was in Mauritius, the 11th was in Mauritius. If you take the other important countries, you have it in India, you have it in Trinidad and Tobago, you have it in UK, Suriname, New York, South Africa. So please understand the places. This can be asked in some form of MCQ question as well. So please pay extra attention to this particular point. And now, what is the actual difference between World Hindi Day and National Hindi Divas? There is a difference. There is a clear-cut difference. World Hindi Day is actually celebrated on the January 10th every year, whereas National Hindi Divas, that is celebrated on September 14th every year. Now, World Hindi Day, the focus is on a global stage, so as to promote Hindi on a very global stage, on a global platform. Whereas if you take the National Hindi Divas, this is going to be held at a national level, marking the adaptation of Hindi that is written in Devanagari script as an official language of the Indian Union. So that is the difference with regard to the focus area, with regard to the theme behind the World Hindi Day and the National Hindi Divas. And the next issue that we are going to discuss is going to be Swadeshi Darshan scheme. Now, what is important with Swadeshi Darshan scheme is that here we are going to develop some theme-based tourist circuit. That is the key word here, theme-based tourist circuit. Why should we develop this theme-based tourist circuit? What is the need behind it? This kind of development of a tourist circuit will actually create some jobs. It will actually lead to job creation and the development of tourism sector as a kind of employment generation scheme that will develop, and this will lead to supporting the communities, providing employment for them, fostering social integration amongst the communities. So this scheme has actually been supported by the Ministry of Tourism, and wherein you are going to have some 15 theme-based tourist circuit. What is the purpose behind it? The idea is to actually position the tourism sector as a major engine for job creation and as a driving force for economic growth, for building synergies with various sectors. How do you build synergies with the other sectors, with the other schemes that has been developed by the Government of India? See, on the one hand, we have the Swadeshi Tourism scheme supported by the Ministry of Tourism. On the other hand, you have the various other schemes that has been supported by the Government of India, like Skill India, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, you have Make in India schemes. So when you are actually linking, when you are actually synergizing the Swadesh Darshan scheme along with these kinds of schemes like Make in India, Skill India and so on, it will lead to a full-fledged development, a overall development of the entire economy of India. This is what they mean by the term synergizing with the various sector, synergizing with the other Government of India schemes. So this is the idea behind Swadesh Darshan scheme. As I have told you, 15 theme-based circuits have been in the process of development, and these are the 15 circuits. Starting from with the Buddhist circuit, you have the Buddhist, Northeast, Coastal, Himalayan, Krishna Circuit, Eco Circuit, you have Desert Circuit, Rural Circuit, Spiritual Circuit, Ramayana, Heritage Circuit, Wildlife Circuit, Tribal Circuit, and finally the two important and the newly developed circuits are Sufi and Tirthankara. It is in a basic idea format. It has not been very well full-fledged developed into a concept. And now let us first of all start with the Northeast Circuit. So this is otherwise known as the paradise unexplored, because the Northeast is certainly a paradise which is to be explored even further. Now, what is the basic region that is under this particular Northeast Circuit is that you have the 7 sister states, plus you have the region of Sikkim. So this is going to be the focus region with regard to the Northeast Circuit. So this particular region has got tremendous potential in terms of ecotourism and adventure tourism. But the problem area with regard to the Northeast Circuit is that there is a lack of tourism infrastructure. Why so? That is because of the geographical hindrance which is coming up in terms of the Northeast region. This region, because of its geographical uniqueness, because of its huge mountain barriers, there is a lack of tourism infrastructure. Also, much of government focus towards this region is also lacking. Then we are moving on to the next important circuit that we have, which is the Buddhist circuit. Now understand, though Buddha was born in Lumbini, which is in Nepal, a lot of activities, a lot of events which has been associated with the life of Buddha has been taking place in the region of India. So we have certain important places of Buddha's life which has been taking place in India. For example, though the birthplace, which is Lumbini, that has been in Nepal, some of the other important events that is associated with the India. Now the focus areas, some focus areas we have actually highlighted. So that is actually very, very important. 4 places: Lumbini, Bodh Gaya, Sarnath and Kushinagar. So they are very important. Why so? That is because, take for example the region of Bodh Gaya. So under the Bodhi tree, that is where Buddha attained enlightenment. And take for example Sarnath. This is the place where he gave his very first sermon in the deer park. And then take for example the Kushinagar. So this is the region that is associated with Buddha's death. So these 4 are very, very important when you take the life of Buddha. And the other 4 places, Kapilavatthu for example, so this is where the palace is situated. So you have the King Suddhodana and the Queen Maya Devi, and Buddha's childhood actually revolving around the Kapilavatthu region. And after leaving the palace, Buddha went for Vaishali, where he took his first spiritual training. After that, Rajgir has been associated with some of his very famous sermons. After that, if you take Shravasti, this is where Buddha spent a major part of his life. And please take a note of Shravasti. Shravasti is not just important from the point of view of Buddhist, but it is also equally important from the point of view of Jainism as well. And then moving on to the Himalayan Circuit. So Himalayas, it is a part of the Himalayan biodiversity hotspot, and very, very importantly, the Great Himalayan National Park Conservation Area, that is also very well a part of this particular region. And what is the prior focus area to be given in the case of Himalayan Circuit is that Himalayas, as you all know, it is a very pristine, very fragile area. Environmentally, it has to be taken into account. So, the focus should be not just on improving infrastructure, the focus should be also given to the preservation and the conservation of this particular area. So, the carrying capacity, that is the key word here, the carrying capacity of the region have to be taken into account, so that when you are exceeding this carrying capacity, what happens? It will be environmentally disastrous for the region. Apart from that, focus should be also given towards infrastructure and skilling the human population who are present in this particular region. They have to be skilled to the needs of the tourism, to the needs of the Himalayan tourism. So, these are the important focus areas when it comes to the Himalayan circuit. And then moving on to coastal circuit. I would call this coastal circuit to be important because as per the Government of India, they are giving much attention to the coastal circuit. They call it as a part of niche tourism. So, what is the meaning of the word niche tourism? Niche tourism meaning the speciality tourism. They are giving special focus towards this particular coastal circuit. And why do they give this special attention? Here comes an interesting factor which we term it as the seasonality factor. What exactly happens here is that the rest of the other tourist circuits, some of the other tourist circuit, like for example, if you take the Krishna Circuit, most of the focus is going to be in the season of Krishna Jayanti, wherein you are going to have some festivals surrounding the life of Krishna. So, that is the time period when you are going to have much of tourists flocking towards the Krishna Circuit. And if you take the Buddha circuit, Buddha Purnima, say for example, so that is the time period when most of the Buddhist pilgrims, they would flocking the Buddhist circuit. But when you take something like coastal circuit, the seasonality factor is going to be very minimum. For example, if you take the Himalayan circuit, people are not going to visit the Himalayas when it is going to be the peak of the winter season, right? So, seasonality factor is going to be very minimalistic when you talk about the coastal circuit. So, this is why prior focus, some importance, some extra additional focus is given to your coastal circuit from the side of the Government of India. The focus will be on creation of employment, conservation of the native flora and the fauna, along with the focus to be given on mangroves and backwaters. Mangroves and backwaters is definitely going to attract both domestic tourists as well as the foreign based tourists. So, you are going to have some great influx of domestic as well as foreign tourists. There is going to be attention upon the water sports, boat trips, cruise activities, bird watching, etc. And then moving on to Krishna Circuit. So, when you talk about Krishna Circuit, historically this is a circuit wherein you are going to have a lot of Krishna based activities. A life and the legends of Lord Krishna is being taking place in various states. It is associated with various states. So, Krishna Circuit is related to all such life events of Lord Krishna. The challenges with regard to Krishna Circuit is that there is going to be a lack of infrastructure like budget hotels, roads, last mile connectivity, solid waste management, cleanliness activity and so on. Apart from that, you are going to have some problems of Touts and Lavka culture. What is this problem of Touts and Lavka culture? Understand, this problem of Touts and Lavka culture is not just associated with Krishna Circuit. In fact, this is a menace which has been plaguing with almost all tourism sector with regard to India. What is this Lavka culture all about? This is an emerging trend in which some tourists, they are getting ambushed either at the railway station or in the airport by some of the guides who actually are very much illegal persons. They actually, their main ambition is to ambush them, is to harass them for money. Their main aim is to get money from these tourists. So, they are getting harassed physically or sexually by these kind of men who actually harass them for money or for some other motive. Describing the Touts as a menace, what happened? The Union Culture Minister recently said that these Touts, they have to be punished, their punishment has to be enhanced even further, and they should be booked under organized crime activities. So let us move on to the next circuit. We have the rural circuit. So when you talk about the rural circuit, what happens here is India, as you know, is a land of villages. So to get to know about more of India's culture, you have to take a peep in India's villages. So when you talk about this particular circuit, it is going to be a win-win situation for the entire rural community. This rural circuit, it is going to act as an alternate engine for growth. This is quite important. Your rural communities are going to be very much flourished because of this kind of rural circuit. It is going to give them some alternate sources of employment, some alternate sources of livelihood. Also, apart from that, the entrepreneurs are also going to get benefited. Those who are going to organize this kind of rural circuit, they are going to get benefited. And finally, the tourist, the foreign tourists, the domestic tourists, they will also get to enhance and they will get to experience some of the rural experiences. And the next important circuit is you have the wildlife circuit. India has been blessed abundantly with a lot of wildlife reserves. So this is nature's gift to India. We have a number of wildlife sanctuaries and national parks. Now, the problem, again, just like how we had seen with the Himalayan circuit, the problem with the wildlife tourism circuit is that this is again a very fragile area. Uncontrolled tourism can be very much harmful to this particular tourism circuit. A calibrated and a meaningful approach is what is very much necessary. When you have this kind of calibrated, meaningful tourism, what happens? The tourists themselves, they will check against any sort of illegal activity. This kind of a scientific tourism must be enhanced with regard to the wildlife circuit. The focus areas should be quality tourist infrastructure, skill development, and most importantly, the safety and the security of the tourist, because we are talking about wildlife here. So the wildlife security, that is again necessary. The tourist security, that is also necessary. And then moving on to tribal circuit. Yes, India has got about 8% of its total population to be the tribes, and under this circuit, the aim is to develop and promote these tribal areas. What is important is the cultural sensitivity of the tribes. The tribes, we are talking about very tribal nature of the people. Therefore, some sensitivity have to be given to the cultural aspect of these particular tribes. You have to preserve the natural surroundings. You have to preserve the local culture. At the same time, when you actually indulge in this kind of a tribal circuit, it will again lead to the enhancement of the life of these kind of tribal people. But focus should be given to the sensitivity, the cultural sensitivity of these particular tribes. And then we are moving on to the Ramayana Circuit. Just like how we had seen about Krishna Circuit, Ramayana Circuit is going to revolve around the life stages of Lord Rama. And what is to be given importance here? You have got to give importance to tourist facilities, some art and craft, and all this is going to develop the local environment which is present there. More of Ramayana Circuit we will be learning in a short while from now. Now let us move on to the next circuit. We have the spiritual circuit. So as the name suggests, this is going to be an interaction of devotion aspect, you have having lifestyle aspect, and you are going to have some travel aspect. Put together, the intersection of devotion, lifestyle, travel will lead to some amount of spiritual circuit. The spirituality, combining that with tourism, is what is the theme behind spiritual circuit. So India is blessed with again a numerous amount of spiritual nature, because we have the congregation of 4 great religions of Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, and Jainism. Almost all spiritual destinations in the country, they display a typical weakness, including a lack of standardized infrastructure and lack of policies that cater to domestic and international tourism. Now, what is interesting point with regard to spiritual circuit is that most of the domestic population which is going to visit these kind of spiritual places, they are going to come from a low income group, which means we have to adopt some pro-poor tourism. This is something that is very unique with regard to the spiritual circuit. And now moving on to the desert circuit. Yes, here we are talking about areas like Thar Desert, some cold deserts of your Ladakh region and so on. So again, the focus should be on development of tourist facilities, adventure activities, and we should also concentrate upon the tribal and the local experiences there. So let us move on to the next important circuit. We have the heritage circuit. So yes, India has been blessed with a lot of cultural specimens, and what is to be noted here is that when we are actually engaging in this form of heritage circuit, the revenue that we get out of this circuit can be again used back for the maintenance of these cultural sites. At the same time, we have to create experiences around these heritage sites. What kind of importance, what kind of focus should we give here? We need some interpretation facilities, which is like local guides who are very well informed. Then we need souvenir shops, and then we need eateries and other conveniences. By other conveniences, we mean the Wi-Fi connectivity, the travel connectivity, we need ATM facilities and so on. So these kind of things will attract the foreign tourists towards the heritage circuit. After that, we are moving on to ecotourism or eco circuit. So ecotourism is the responsible travel to fragile and pristine areas. So just like what we had learned with regard to the Himalayan circuit, eco circuit is again equally fragile in nature. So there should be a balanced approach, a balance between preservation and conservation and developing the tourism in that particular local area. So this aims to educate the traveler and provide funds for the conservation of that particular locality. It will directly benefit the economic development of that local community and some promotion of energy efficiency ideas, promotion of water conservation ideas, that will also get enhanced because of the eco-tourism. And take a look at what happens with India. India, due to its geographical diversity, this provides ample sites for ecotourism. The goal is to let people enjoy that particular ecotourism site as well as to enhance this particular preservation of the ecotourism site. So that is the goal. Please understand, this is a very thin line. If you cross the line, we are actually transgressing the ecotourism site. We are transgressing the preservation of that particular area. So we should be actually traveling on a very thin line between balanced approach of preserving the site as well as developing the tourism of that particular ecological site. And then we have Sufi circuit, which is revolving around the Sufism aspect, and then we have the Tirthankara circuit, which is revolving around Jain Tirthankara aspect. Not very much developed, the idea is in a very germination condition. It is to be developed by the government of India, and when the theory is being concretely developed, we will be taking a closer look about these two circuits. And as I have told you before, something that is very closely connected to your Ramayana circuit is this particular Ramayana Express, and that is going to be the next issue. So we have recently started a tourist train which is known as the Ramayana Express, and this is going to cover the Ramayana circuit. So the Ramayana circuit, as we have just now studied, it is a part of your Swadeshi Darshan scheme. And please understand, these are some of the important destinations which are proposed to be covered by this particular Ramayana circuit. And that concludes the module for the day. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.